Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sibylla Muti. Great girlfriends, you are in for a treat yet again. I hope you're having a beautiful week, and I'm adding even more beauty and vibrance to your week as I introduce my guest today. Oh my gosh. She put me to sleep, and you're going to understand why later, but she literally knocks me out. And she soothes and she comforts. She does all these amazing things with her techniques. Phyllicia Bonnano is co-founder of Sisters of Yoga, a certified yoga teacher, Reiki practitioner, and sound bath facilitator based in New Jersey, New York City. She's been practicing yoga since she was in high school. She is an artist at heart, and yoga has translated into a moving art and meditation for her. You can find Phyllicia teaching vinyasa flows, meditation, yin, and sound baths. Phyllicia also shares the gift of sound healing through workshops with the use of alchemy crystal singing bowls. And I can testify that it works because literally I am a recipient of a beautiful and amazing sound bath and sound healing. Each of her bowls are infused with different crystals that connect to the chakras and deeper self. The sound of the singing bowls vibrate through the body, allowing you to achieve an inner cleanse and calm throughout your whole being. Phyllicia is the co-founder of Sisters of Yoga, a safe place for women of color to explore yoga and mindful living, navigate self-discovery and healing while having a sisterhood to support them. She is an artist and has her BFA and MFA in fine art painting and is a certified art teacher. Full-time, she's a teacher of visual arts. You can take classes with Phyllicia through her program, Yoga with Phyllicia, exclusively in the Sweat app. I love everything that you do, and I believe that more than ever, Phyllicia, COVID has taught us that we need a wellness kit. So I want to welcome you to the Great Girlfriends and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am beyond honored that you asked me to be part of this. And yes, definitely a wellness kit during this, crazy time of revolution, change, whatever you want to call it. Having a wellness kit is essential to our well-being.
That's right. I think we thought that on December 31st, 2020, COVID would end and a new world would begin, right? And so, false, that did not happen. And what we've learned, though, COVID, it was really a lens for many of us into some of the wellness practices that we probably should have had incorporated years before, that we need to adapt on a regular basis because a lot of people found their mental health and their bodies at risk during this time, right?
Yeah, even myself, I'll tell you, it's just a different space navigating where, I'm an introvert naturally. So me staying home is kind of I enjoy that, but that's also my choice. So then when your choice is taken away and everything's closed down and you're not interacting with people like you normally do, even those people that you work with that may annoy you, you don't realize that that's just the zest and energy that's part of living, and having that taken away kind of was a big downer. I found myself week 2 of that whole beginning quarantine process. I was what in the world is going on? I just didn't feel good internally because all those things that we take for granted were literally taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. And taken away without any date of return. We don't know. All the connectivity that we were so accustomed to and that was just so big part of our culture has been lifted. And who knows the date of return, but we do have to maintain and even groom our minds and bodies to weather circumstance. Mm-hmm. And so having really resourceful tools like yoga, sound healing, and some of the other art practices that you also introduce are helpful to us. I want to know, did little girl Phyllicia love art, or where did all of this?
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up I like to say I was naturally gifted. I've always been able to draw, paint, that's always been a part of me. Even dressing up, fashion has always been part of my blood. Literally, it just comes naturally, that creative aspect of me. Mm-hmm. And that has also been my way of expressing how I feel internally, because I have not always been a vocal person in terms of expressing my feelings. So art in whatever form you want to have it, has been an aid for me to release and pretty much reflect on myself.
Love it. And so practicing yoga since high school, what led you to yoga, and how has it well, I see it's transformed your life, but what are some of the ways that you've used it to kind of transform your life?
When I first started yoga, I was in high school, and that's when everybody picks a sport or does something extracurricular. And I was already doing like art programs on the side or during the weekends, but I was looking for something physical. And for me, just a lot of the sports, it just wasn't connecting. I was just not that type of girl. I was the type of girl, if a ball came towards me in gym class, I would just politely scoot over to the side and not even attempt to catch it. I just completely opted out. It just wasn't for me. So I was just like, I need to find something physical. Because I did know that is one of the key things to overall health, is taking care of the physical body as well. So at that time, like, I was also going through some other things. Like, I had not suffered, but my mother, she was going through an addiction. It was me, seven, and my siblings. It was seven of us. I was the oldest in one household, raised by my grandparents. So there was just a lot going on, a lot of emotions. And at that time, oddly enough, Madonna was one of my favorite artists, and she was practicing yoga. Like, she dedicated like a whole album kind of like to her yoga journey. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This kind of clicks. Let me try it out. And I had no idea. Like, at first I was just thinking like, I'm going to get buff arms and be toned, and gentle flows. Like, that was my goal. I was like, okay, this is cool. But little did I know that there was so much more to the practice of yoga, that it really is rounding off of the mind, body, and soul, bringing everything into balance and alignment. And as I practice, obviously nothing that you do, will change anything right off the bat, but it was those slow, gradual changes, me taking time, getting into poses, noticing my breath, taking the time to breathe, also translated into regular life. Like, breathing is key. It's essential to any situation. It makes us pause. Instead of reacting to things, we reflect and go into it more mindfully when we notice our breath, opposed to, when you're breathing and panting and you're angry and you just react to something. Focusing on the breath allows you to be, to be more intentional about your words, your actions, your thoughts. So that all translated into my regular life as well. And then slowly, like, again, it wasn't an instant thing. It also translated into how I was being mindful about what I was eating. And
yes,
and everything was connected.
I love it. I know that in our community, there's this taboo around yoga and the spiritual practices of yoga. And a lot of people have been afraid to kind of dabble into the benefits of yoga. But those who do practice yoga have learned like that it's completely healing therapy, and all the things that you've learned in terms of the balance that it creates for the body. And then there's levels to the wellness journey. And, you seem to have committed to it in a deeper way. And not only just that, but found a mission that empowers other women of color to learn how to embody wellness through yoga. How did you know that you were the woman for that mission?
I didn't know. Like,
that's so good.
Like, you could have asked me, let's say maybe even 4 years ago, would I have been here? I would have not thought, like, I was just like, I'm going to school, getting my, I think at that point, getting my master's, teaching art. And I had started my Instagram, and all I was doing was posting yoga pictures just like anybody else, no rhyme or reason. My cats are in the background. There may have been some mess and whatnot, but I was just like any other person posting. And that was just my intention, just sharing my practice, just like anybody else. And then slowly it literally was like these small baby steps. First it started with me taking part in challenges. And then it started with me hosting challenges. And then it slowly became, brands reaching out to me because they liked what I had to offer. And also people that were following me, they liked what I had to offer, saying they were being inspired by me. And then again, it's like, I'm just like me, like it's like, I'm just like anybody else. Like we're all inspiring each other, but I had no clue, and now I still have no idea like what the future will bring, what the future holds. I just try to be present in the moment, offer what I have. Like one thing I believe in is that if you are truly passionate about something, if something connects to you and it makes you vibrate higher, it's kind of your duty to share that with the world, because it's going to speak to somebody else like it speaks to you. And if it's changed your life, I'm pretty sure it'll change many others. So I feel like that's what I just try to do. Like if something calls to me, if I enjoy something, love it, I do my best to share it with others, because even though you're you're a teacher as well as a lifelong learner, it all is in sync.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And that's that confirmation in your spirit that we need sometimes. It's like, well, if it speaks to me in such a deep and penetrating way, then perhaps it's meant for me to kind of help other people see the same value in it. So
And
good.
the thing is, on whatever level it is, like we have this idea that we have to be quote unquote experts in something to share it. And that's not the case. It's like if whatever you have, bring it to the table. It'll speak to somebody else.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. So I do believe that, the people that are thought leaders are not necessarily experts, but they are the most passionate, the most vocal.
Yes.
And in this world that we live in, vocality is essential. We need people coming out of every crevice saying, this is what I'm passionate about. This is a blueprint. This is what I've learned, because everyone's lesson is valuable. Your lessons are valuable to me. Your learnings, your passion has been valuable to me. Like I told you firsthand, I needed to have a conversation with you about all of this because the sound bath was just so powerful. And I wasn't really sure of what I was experiencing, as I went through the sound bath. I had zero clue, but I knew I felt the effectiveness of your techniques. And I wanted to bring that forward so other women could also kind of grab a hold to something that I found powerful. But it came from you saying, hey, I have this to share. And I love that. So thank you for that piece. So to the sound bath, that was just like a game changer. Talk to me about how you jump into sound therapy. Like are there levels to this where you're like, you know what, this is my next area of growth in terms of offering wellness to my community, or how do you know that that's the next piece for you?
Well, for me, even in my yoga practice, like when I first started, not even when I first started, I would say like, we could even say 5 years ago, I had difficulty meditating. Like if there was a meditation class for 30 minutes or an hour, it's like you would not catch me signing up for it at all. It's like sitting still, doing the extra slow movements just was not my jam.
Yeah.
And I realized it wasn't my jam because what it is, it's connected to also emotions that I had, stuff that I may have suppressed within myself. During those moments of stillness and silence, those things come up to the surface.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready to face those things. Like I literally fought it and I was just like, no, go back down. I don't really feel like addressing it at this moment. I just want to do the movement part. So meditating was very difficult for me. It was a challenge. And then I found that adding in the sound element actually, what's the word? Like allowed me to calm down, I guess, a bit, to cancel out some of the mind chatter, some of the stuff that would come up, like self-doubt, me saying, I don't want to listen, or this or that, whatever it was that was making me fight my emotions, fighting the things that I was suppressing. The sound kind of neutralized it. And sound is universal, doesn't matter what language you speak. It's something that connects to every single individual. And I found even when I had first started the sound, like I wouldn't have considered myself an expert. I was just sharing what I loved. I found so many people connected to it. They were like, what is this? What is this feeling? What am I experiencing right now? All I know is that it feels really good. And so then I just started sharing more of it. And the other cool part about sound therapy is you can be anywhere. Well, now in this virtual life that we're living, you could be anywhere and experience it,
Yeah.
and all you have to do is sit there or lie down. It doesn't really require a physical aspect of it. It just requires you to come there with an open heart and a mind and be able to experience it and feel whatever comes up in that moment.
You know what was so good about it? I found it to be one of my favorite parts of the Exhale Retreat experience. And what you all don't know is that my father had passed literally probably 2 weeks before the Exhale Retreat. And so we're in the middle of planning a homegoing, and we're also planning, I'm, in the middle of the Exhale Retreat. So I'm pulling hair like on for every side. I'm just like, life was just really, really jam packed. But I was going through the edits for all the videos and listening to everything and everyone saying and just paying attention and going through the experience. And the peace that I felt in my body as a result of the sound therapy was something that I hadn't felt in, I guess I could safely say, all of 2020. I felt a stillness in my body that I had never experienced, well, not never, but had not experienced in a long time. And I played it over and over because I was like, what's happening here? And so I played your sound therapy a few times just to kind of walk myself through what I was feeling. And it was just a stillness and a peace that, I think that we're missing. We're missing a lot of that. And we don't even know how to facilitate it, Phyllicia. I think a lot of us have come accustomed to the noise, the clutter, the chaos. And we've decided that maybe that's just the way things will be. And we just need to live that way. But what I've found is that there are so many tools in place that help us to cultivate the emotion, the experience, the environment in our beings that we deserve to have. And that, for me, became a new tool that I was curious about. So I really want to thank you, because that was my first time ever doing a sound bath. And it was the tranquility that I needed navigating through grief. And the excitement of another event, just so many emotions flying at once and not having a landing space for all of them.
No, that's amazing. And I also feel that, when we're needing something, it finds us. No, in
Yeah.
whatever space or time we're in, it whatever you need will find you. And in that
Yeah.
moment, you needed the sound.
Yeah. So good. So, okay. So in terms of the effectiveness, of sound therapy, how often do you use sound therapy? How often can people practice sound therapy, or when do you incorporate this as a tool? What are some of those kind of tactical things, I should say?
Yeah, so I do it, I would say maybe every day or every other day. It depends on my mood. Like I'll have a bowl out and just, it may be after yoga practice. It could just be, I just want to hear the sound. And then in terms of how often can you do it, the cool part is it's not like a physical practice. You're not going to hurt yourself from overdoing it. So if you need a moment, it could be 3 times a day that you want to listen to the sound, because it's like just music. Think about when you're in your car, how often do you listen to music? Most of us listen to music the whole time that we're driving.
Right.
So you can pull this tool out at any time that you need it. It could be for a minute, it could be for 30 minutes. It's up to you to choose.
Mm. And are there apps that sort of introduce the different sounds, or are there sounds relative to different emotional spaces, or, are there different like sort of charging sounds or calming or soothing? Those,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're
So
okay.
depending, like there's definitely different apps that have sounds like I have some sounds on my Instagram, and I can also share with you later some other apps that have different sound baths linked to them. And even without the crystal singles, there's different instruments too. So you can think about when you're listening to music in any other moment, like taking away the sound bath part, think about what tones uplift you, what makes you feel good, taking away the verbal cues of it. It's like all sound has those properties, so
Mm.
you want to listen to what affects you and what calls to you.
That's so good. I don't know that we ever take note of that, Phyllicia. That's really good advice to kind of pay attention to. And I guess we kind of look at it from the perspective of genres of music, because most of us will say, well, I listen to this lo-fi when I want to cool out. My kids absolutely every night go to sleep to either the ocean or lo-fi. It's one or two the other. But that's a really great idea in terms of how to locate the properties that are essential or that nurture you when you need them.
Yes.
Wow. So now, the business part of all of this, how did you start the movement? Because I feel that, you have been a vessel for this movement to make sure that women of color are really active and involved in yoga and learning how to build upon their wellness practices.
Well, and it's weird, like in this social media space that we're in, um, you see so many like white yogis out there, even in terms of in different aspects. It could be clothing brands or images that you see, just whatever pops up. And not so often do you see a woman of color, and even for Black women or any woman of color in general, on that realm at all. And with that, it also comes into the acceptance of our bodies, because we have different body types than what social media portrays, the yoga body type. We also have different cultures and backgrounds than what other people that have been doing yoga or been practicing meditation have experienced. So, and our own individual experiences that we have gone through, things that we have suffered through, I think is something that yoga, mindfulness, and that lifestyle definitely calls to, and something that we could benefit from. So I've tried my best to, I guess, be a vessel for the message, for the movement, introducing yoga, introducing sound. And even when there's moments I feel, down on myself, it's like, I'm just like any other person, where I'm just like, maybe I'll just tap out. It's like, no, it's like you could take a break, but there are people that are literally, it can be, sometimes I post something so simple and I'll get a message and somebody's like, that was so inspiring. You don't know how that affected me. I was having a down moment, yada, 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 yada. So that also inspires me to keep moving, to keep doing what I'm doing.
I love it. I love it. So what will be your legacy from the work that you do in this arena?
My legacy.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's a heavy question. I don't know. I guess just connecting, because there's at this moment we're doing the work to connect, but just connecting those empty spaces, connecting the mindfulness space, the wellness space, so that everybody feels accepted, so that everybody feels that it's accessible for them to have, to meditate, to do yoga, and feel comfortable in the space while they're practicing, and to feel like they belong.
Yeah, I love that. It's so interesting to see, as a kid of the 80s, mindfulness, personal development, emotional intelligence, none of these things were really introduced or incorporated in schools. And now having two children, ages 12 and 9, and seeing some of the mindful practices that they have introduced or incorporated into curriculum, I just think it's such a valuable resource for people to tap into early. And I'm seeing it even now in a lot of the charter schools, where yoga has become mandatory as a physical education course. And I think it's so valuable that our kids inherit that kind of mindfulness, period, because just that way of approaching the world offers you so much peace amidst the chaos. And I think we're reverse engineering. I am reverse engineering a lot of that. So, but it's transformative to see and to groom mindful kids. It's been remarkable just to watch how they approach decision making as a result of having these tools as children, and how, how they approach the consideration of other kids, and just their ability to calm themselves and to comfort themselves, self-soothe a bit more. It's just really rewarding. So I think it's a very rich practice for us all to, one, cultivate a toolkit, two, think outside of our boxes, and in a Black community specifically, the church has been the box where everybody just takes all their problems to the church. And, spirituality is so important. Practically speaking, when you need medicine, you go to a doctor. When you need wellness, you should be able to have these tools to help cultivate the peace that you want inside. So for me, I'm always looking for all the innovative ways that I can help our community. And your message is just, it partners alongside that to look at some unconventional ways of developing self, incorporating new practices and healing. Healing is a big piece for us. We have to be the ones to heal ourselves. I don't think there's a ship coming to come and, save everyone and heal, but we have to be willing to go inside, dig in, and really curate a healing experience on the inside. So kudos to you. Kudos to you. Yeah, the work is important. So important.
Yeah. And it ties close to that part of, what is that phrase that is like, God helps those who help themselves. And it's like, if you just try a little bit, try to dig a little bit deep, the rest of the way, it'll be there. The path is there. It's just like, you have to put in that work daily.
Yeah. So Phyllicia, for those who want to keep up with you and send you a message or even follow or possibly, join your movement or even be a part of a yoga experience, where can they follow you?
So you can follow me on Instagram, Phyllicia.Bonnano. And then if you want to take yoga classes with me, you can find me on the Sweat app. It's very accessible in terms of cost, especially now since you can't physically go into a yoga studio. I'll be there with you online. And you can always send me a message on Instagram. I'm there answering, if you have any questions. And you can also follow my other page, Sisters of Yoga, as well.
Thank you so much, Phyllicia. I really, really appreciate the work you're doing. And I wish you much success in every endeavor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and so honored and happy that you had me on here today.
Of course, of course.
Great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast, into the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends. You follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_great GFS. Last but not least, we'd like to thank my amazing husband, Kwaku, Sam and Dilly, and all of you for being a part of the global community that makes us so strong. Please remember to share with your friends. Keep listening and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.